Welcome to Mooney Reads, and welcome to a weekend reading update. So I would like to start doing more regular, just sit down, chatty reading updates. Weekly would be ideal. I think every other week is probably more reasonable, but we'll see how it happens. So just talking about what I've been reading, what I've been doing, all that kind of fun stuff. I tend to read multiple books at once, and I'm really bad at accidentally DNFing stuff. Like, it'll just kind of float away and then eventually come back. Or the soft DNF, but like not permanent. So I thought this would be a good way to actually talk about all of the books that I'm enjoying, even if it takes me longer to kind of get around to the end of them. And just a good way to get into regularly making videos. But I'm mostly going to be talking about books that I've read, a few books that I've gotten, and then just other stuff that I've been doing or into. I'll start off with a book that I've been reading for a while, Freaks Talk Back. I worked on this a little bit. This is one I've been going through a little more slowly. It's one that's been in the bag that I bring to work that I'll read sometimes on lunch break, and I worked on this some this week. This was published in the late 90s. I want to say 98. And this is talking about the phenomena of talk shows bringing queer people or other people who are seen as sexually like deviant. And this ranges from the cutesy, sort of more emotional stuff like Oprah, but also your Jerry Springer kind of oriented stuff. And this kind of talks about the history of this sort of genre of talk show, but also people's experiences being on it. So this person has done research with people who've been on the show, people who have produced the show. I finished the first couple of chapters and am now into chapter 3, and so far it's really interesting. I will say that it does have some parts where the author's being like tongue-in-cheek and cute. Sometimes it's funny and sometimes it's like really obvious that it was written in the late 90s in a really bad way, like unnecessary comments in a way. But overall, I think that the research that's into this and kind of the perspective that this is taking on some of the talk shows is really interesting. The next book I've been working on, I started this week, and that is Unsafe Words, Queering Consent in the Me Too Era, which I bought on a recommendation of a bookseller, White Oak Books. Whoever does their queer studies section has immaculate taste, because I've read a lot of the things around that they recommend, but this was one that I hadn't. So I picked it up a while ago, but I started reading it because of the discussion that Devon Price has been having on his Instagram story recently about consent and this like kink conference that he went to. It's very interesting. If you don't follow Devon Price, definitely do. I've talked a lot about his book Unmasking Autism, and I earlier this year also finished Unmasking for Life, which is also very good. But he has a lot of really interesting shit online that goes like kind of way outside of the scope of just the stuff that he's like formally published in a book. Anyways, we're getting way off track on that. This is looking at how some of the mainstream black and white notions of consent don't always work in particular spaces. And so this has a lot of readings from people who are in those spaces. So people like sex workers, people who engage in kind of anonymous activities. And it's really interesting so far. The intro is really solid, and I've gotten through the first 2 readings. I think it's going to be good, and I'm also interested in the other things that are going to be happening in this series of books. They also talk about the fact that this Q Public, they're going to have kind of other topics that they go through like this, with a variety of people kind of putting their input. So, very interesting. And then the final book that I have been working through this week is Pansy by Andrea Gibson. I love this poetry collection. This will be probably my third or fourth reread of it. Unfortunately, they passed away recently. So I've been revisiting some of their stuff, watching a little bit of their newer stuff, but I can only do so much because lots of big feelings. I have lots of big feelings about this collection too, but it's familiar, and a poetry collection I could sit and read in a sitting, but I've been going through this a little bit more slowly, and it's very good. So these are the only things that I've been working on reading this past week. Other than that, my world has mostly been RuPaul's Drag Race. All Stars 10 ended recently, with something to be desired, and basically almost of the last lip syncs except for what Bosco did. And if anyone watched that season or has seen any of the stuff online, you know that everyone's like kind of upset about it. But I have finally started season 17, and that has been really excellent. I think I just finished the 4th episode, and I've been watching Untucked and watching a little bit of YouTube content. I almost can't look at my YouTube page right now because I watched some of like the recaps, the hot or rot, all that sort of stuff for the first episode, and suddenly I'm getting spoilers that I'd really rather not see. So I'm probably gonna power through the rest of the season and then watch a lot of the other stuff, just so that I can be on the internet with peace of mind. But it's really great so far. There is a lot of talent, a lot of like shady drama, which is fun, but also a lot of girls supporting girls, and I love that. Other stuff I've been doing this week, crocheting. The thing that I have does not look like much because I have only just now started it, but this is the thing that I'm more or less following, but I want to add cat ears and little paws to it. It's gonna be cute, and I'm kind of doing it as like a little bit of happy grief work. It's something that I think my brother, who I recently lost, would have really liked. Pink was his favorite. Cat ears were definitely his favorite, so I think it's gonna be cute, and it's a fun little project. And I haven't been crocheting a whole ton of other stuff recently. I've kind of been working a little bit, kind of mundanely, on a blanket, and I've started like the very beginnings of another chicken nugget pillow, dinosaur chicken nugget pillow, like this. I also have a pterodactyl one, and the one I'm working on is pterodactyl, and that's for a gift that'll happen eventually, but the main feature has been David's cat hood. So the final thing that I'll talk about is books that I hauled this week. First, I have a very small library haul. I got Cactus Country, which is something that I feel like I've only seen online a couple of times. I've mostly seen it at the bookstore that I work at, and I keep thinking about buying it, but like one of the like 100 million books that I'm back and forth about because I don't actually know when I'll read it, but I put a hold on it in the library. No idea when I'll start it. The thing with library books is I'm very bad about checking stuff out and then not reading them, but it's good for the library and good for the authors, and eventually I'll read them. So many times I will get a book from the library, start reading it, and then like need my own copy. That happened with Doppelganger, which I've yet to finish reading, and with The Devil is Here in These Hills, which I am currently reading. I didn't work on it this week, which is why I didn't talk about it earlier, but I did start that a couple weeks ago. So that's the library haul. And then the books that I bought for myself this week. I got Ugliness, which I've had my eye on for a minute. I haven't heard anyone talk about it online, but again, I work at a bookstore, so there are some books that I'll see week after week after week thinking that I want to buy it, and this week was the week. It looks really interesting. It's about kind of the social construction of ugliness, who creates it, who suffers because of it. And this was written by someone who is from Afghanistan but lives in Germany, and this was translated from the German. So that's extra interesting. You don't see nearly as much translated nonfiction, I think. So it's going to be really cool. And then the other book that I bought this week is Sunburn. I initially heard about this, I think, because a few customers tried to buy it several months ago and it wasn't available. So I looked into it a little bit more. This was originally published in the UK, which is why it's only just now out in the US. But this seems really like something up my alley. It's set in the 90s, queer coming of age, religious trauma. So there's a lot here. I feel like I've seen people talk about this online, but I do not remember anything that they said about it. So hopefully it's good. Just looking at the blurbs, it definitely seems like something that I'd be interested in. So that is what I've been reading, watching, enjoying this week. In the comments, let me know what you've been reading, what you've been up to, and thank you all so much for watching. Bye.